Okay, as we continue our conversation with two-dimensional shapes, we're going to talk a little bit about vocabulary. So first of all, one of the things I talk a lot about in this section is perimeter. Now, perimeter, it doesn't matter really what shape that you have. All that really matters is that perimeter is the total distance around a shape. So for us, that usually means that we have to add all the sides together. So let's say that I have some kind of triangle here, doesn't matter what kind, and that I have these sides that look like this. So 10 meters, 7 meters, and 5 meters. So if I wanted to find the perimeter of that, I would have to add up all the sides. So 5 plus 10 plus 7. So that would end up being 22, and then meters would still stay on the end. So really, just doesn't matter how many sides you have, just adding them all up. Now, let's talk a little bit about some vocabulary that has to do with triangles. And this is one that they get used a lot. So I want to make sure that you're good with this. So if I have an acute triangle, then that means that all of the angles are less than 90 degrees. So I know that if I have three of those angles are going to be less than 90 degrees. Okay, now if I have an obtuse triangle, it has one obtuse angle. So you have one angle in it that is greater than 90 degrees. So you can tell in this one that would be that obtuse angle. That's your one angle. Okay, now if they talk about an equal angular triangle, that means that it is a triangle with all the angles being equal. So in this one, all three of those happen to be equal. Okay, now, just as an aside, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, in a triangle always takes these three angles, and when I add them up, they have to be 180 degrees. So that means if it's equal angular, the only way that could be true is if each of these were 60 degrees, because then you get 180 if you added them all together. But they have to all be the same. Okay, isosceles. An isosceles triangle has two sides that are equal. So in this case, these two would be the two that would be equal, and this third side would have to be a different length. Okay, equilateral triangle means that all the sides are equal. So they would all have to have the same length on all of those. Okay, a scalene triangle. All the sides are different lengths. So if they all have to be different, they would all have different tick marks. So that means this would be one length, this would be another, and this would be a third. Okay, now, the one other piece that I want us to talk about, at least for a little while, let's go back and talk about a triangle back here and talk about its measurements. So all triangles are going to equal 180 degrees when you add them together. So let me add a post-it note just so you can kind of see this a little bit and see how it works. Let me just add a blank one here. I'm going to erase this just so I have a little bit of spot to show you this. So if I have a triangle I should be able to tell what the measurements are. I usually get at least, one or two angles. So let's say this was 50 and this was 80, and I don't know what this is. So if I add up all three angles together, they should equal 180 degrees. Now, I do know these two I can kind of total up. So those two angles together would be 130 degrees. So 130 plus what gives me 180? That means that this one would have to be 50 degrees. So that would be what your missing angle is. And we'll see some of those in that section. Okay, we'll continue a little bit more with some of our area properties.